Miners of Intelligence and Consciousness. I'm Rick Brooks, and this is Rick's Mind. Today with me, I have Darian Kauffman, who is an Apache helicopter pilot. What's good, brother? Welcome to the show.
I appreciate it, Rick. Been a whole year since I've seen you last, so good to see you again.
It's been too long, man. It's been too long, and I'm really excited to have you here. As first off, like, we go back years. We played college football together. We were dorm mates. We lived together multiple times, and I always, the weirdest thing about your story I've always found is that, like, you graduate college, you move to Seattle. I don't know. Are you working for UPS? What are you doing post college?
Yeah, oddly enough, I worked for UPS. By the way, great company. Not promoting for them, but I definitely, if you can get a job working for UPS, being a driver, you will get paid very well. And then I actually did a job health coaching, which is more in line with my degree with public health. And I don't know, I found myself sitting at a desk like every single day. And nothing wrong with sitting at a desk, but I thought to myself eventually, I was like, this can't be the next 30 years. And if it is, then I'm going to have some issues. So went down, actually talked to a recruiter in Washington about joining the National Guard. And then moved back to Oregon, moved to Bend. Enjoyed my time there for about a year. Drank a lot of beer, and that was about it. And the recruiter actually convinced me to go full active duty. That was the only thing I can say a recruiter actually convinced me of doing.
Really? He's like, you got to go all in. And did you know that you wanted to fly helicopters, like from the jump?
No. Okay. So,
also, real quick, can you push your camera back? It's cutting off the top of your head. People need to see your beautiful hair, dude. Oh, beautiful. Thanks, man. Sorry.
Yeah, I have hair now, so people should see it. But no, actually, so to anyone like listening, there's like a couple different sides of the military. You have the enlisted side, which you hear in movies like Sergeant, stuff like that, basic training, all that kind of stuff. You have the enlisted side. They do all of the day-to-day work. They're more involved with soldiers. They're the ones directly involved with like a soldier's future. And then you have officers, which that requires a 4-year degree. Typically, they're going to be your commanders. That's like your captain or your general. There's a bunch of ranks in between there, but no one knows those because they know Captain America and they know generals. So we'll just leave it at that. And then in the United States Army, we have a very special subsect, which is called a Warrant Officer. And it's kind of in between both of them. It's not an enlisted soldier, and it is a commissioned officer. But a full commissioned officer, they call them RDLs or RLDs, real life officers, RLOs. With that, the RLO outranks the warrant officer, but the warrant officer is considered the subject matter expert. So when it comes to like flying a helicopter, I am an officer. I will one day be a commander of a whole aviation company. Hopefully, if I do play my cards right, I'll be the commander of a whole aviation battalion. But I will fly less throughout my career, almost half as much as a warrant officer will, because their entire job is to be the best pilot that they possibly can be. And it's not just pilots that are warrant officers. There's other jobs that you can do as a warrant, but they are considered like the utmost respectable person in their specific job title that they can be.
Damn, dude, I actually did not know that.
Yeah, no, because why would you?
Yeah, that's true. This is also very, very true. So I thought, dude, the last time we spoke, I thought you were a warrant officer. Did you? What happened there?
I thought about going warrant, and I just went full-fledged officer, which honestly could have backfired on me. So I don't know if you know this. The Army Or actually, I'll ask you this. Did you know that there's an aviation, like a pilot shortage in America?
I did know that.
Yeah, so that's not just in the civilian world. That's military as well.
I did not know that in the military.
Yeah. So they consider us a couple years behind of like aviation numbers. And so I decided to go full-fledged officer because I was like, oh, they need pilots. It will be very easy to get aviation. So I went to OCS, and you have to put in a packet at OCS. So another example. So OCS is Officer Candidate School.
Okay.
You can go there if you have a degree, and you basically get scored through all these different events. And where you score depicts what job you'll be able to do. So let's say that there's 4 infantry slots, a couple engineer, like all these other jobs. Well, if you're number 1, you get your pick of the litter. But if you're number 80, it all is depicted off of what people picked before you. But with aviation, that list doesn't matter at all. You send a packet up to Fort Rucker, Alabama, which is where flight school is for the Army. And they look at your packet and they say yay or nay. And if they pick you, then you're automatically off the OML. You get that job. Well, so I thought the Army needs aviation pilots. I'll do that. Turns out they need warrants. And only 5% of the officers, which is what I did, come from OCS. The rest come from ROTC and West Point.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Did you know this scope before you sent your packet off, or did you figure this out after the packet was off?
No, after the packet was off, and the cadre. Yeah, it was bad. The cadre told me at OCS, like they were like, yeah, like good job, like sending off your packet. They're like, just to let you know, the last 30 people that have applied out of OCS have been declined.
Fuck.
And I was like, wow, this could have just been 4 years of work. And now I'm going to be an engineer officer, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have your heart set on one thing for that long and you put all the marbles on that and then find out, oh, that's not how it works.
Oh, dude, what? Did you lose sleep after this guy told you that? I would have been like, are you like, that's your dream, man, So
100%. And so to put it into perspective, OCS is a 12-week course, 13-week course. You branch at week 8. And so my packet hadn't even come back by the time we branched. So originally at week 8, I branched armorer. So I was going to be a tank commander. And then
that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it would still be really dope, but it wasn't what I wanted. It's what my wife does, which is cool.
Yeah.
But no. And then 2 weeks later, after branching, or like a week later, the packet came back that I'd been accepted, and it was like a week or 2 before graduation. So they had to change around all my orders. They had to do I had to change my uniform, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, nice.
Because that's the thing about aviation. They could tell you at any point that you got accepted. And it's kind of like one of those deals where if you say you want to be aviation, they accept you, you kind of have to take it.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, but it opens up so many doors for you, even post-military. I mean, you're always going to be able to get a job being a helicopter. I would assume. Like I would assume. Am I right there?
So yes and no. Like it depends. So when the COVID, I'll try to break this down. So basically, Army's having a big Army, Air Force, Navy, doesn't matter who you are, having a big problem retaining pilots. Well, the reason for that is because let's say that right now, as in O1E and or O2E, for you that don't know that, O2 is my pay grade. So I'm a first lieutenant. E, it means I was enlisted before. So I get extra money for being enlisted before I became an officer.
Nice.
So it's great. But even as an O2E, you might make, depending on where you're living, because we get different costs of living. Like if I lived in Seattle, I would get more cost of living than living in lower Alabama, as one would expect.
Yes.
But so you might make six figures, but as a pilot for like Delta, if you work your way up in seniority, you might make 250,000.
Yeah.
And you don't get shot at. So, really, two great things. So that's why the Army and like the military in general has lost a lot of pilots, because it's just a better quality of life and more money. But then COVID hit and the airlines took a dump. Yep. So for a little bit there, actually everyone, like contractors, all that kind of stuff, were trying to come back to the military because they lost their job.
Oh, fuck.
But
How hard is it to get back in?
As far as getting back into the military, I can't tell you. Like, I haven't met that many people that have left the service and then came back. I do have one buddy that I was at flight school with. He was a Marine for 4 years and then was a civilian for like 4 years, named Jordan Chatler. And then he applied to be a warrant officer, and now he's a pilot. So, I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. But
there's always a way.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's one of those hard things because I imagine it's easier to get back as a contractor because just certain things are easier to get that way. And I mean, at flight school, somebody has to fly with us.
So when you say contract, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like teaching people how to fly? Like, say I was a pilot and now I'm out and I was like, you know what? Fuck the civilian world. I don't like it. I miss the brotherhood. I'm going back in. And they're like, yeah, how about you just take a contract? You teach these young studs how to fly. And I'll be like, all right, yeah, I can do that. Is that kind of what you mean?
Basically, yeah. So like, I'll use my example, which is my IP instructor pilot. His name was Todd Chambers. One of the best men I've ever met in my life. Super happy. Never met anyone that's been more kind to other people. Pretty sure he's killed like hundreds of people. But still very, very happy guy. But nonetheless, he did 32 years in the Army. He retired, as a CW5, which CW5 is the highest warrant officer rank you can possibly get. They're like a unicorn. You never see one. You're like, when you see one, you're confused how to act around them because you're like, basically equivalently, they're like the rank of like almost like a colonel, but they're not.
Yeah.
And he did 32 years in the Army, left the Army, instantly went into contracting for the military. And he flies young pilots around and teaches them how to fly the Apache. And this dude's been flying the Apache since like the early 1990s. So like when we were born.
Dude, wow. Wait. How many combat missions did this dude go on?
Dude, I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it was like anywhere between 5 and 8. And he was a really smart guy. Like, I'll give you a story about him. He was great. So he was doing a mission in Afghanistan. He was telling us about this. And he always tried to think, like, what would cost the military the least amount of money? Because, if we blow up a building that we weren't supposed to, we have to pay for that.
Yeah. So
insurgents took over an entire hospital. And he was thinking, okay, what's going to be the least amount of, casualty? What's the least amount of damage? But it was a hospital. So they had helium tanks inside the hospital, which he didn't know about. So he shot a 30 millimeter round in there to limit the amount of damage that could be done. He hit a helium tank and he blew up the whole building. And I was like, what can you do?
Yeah, what can you do? Damn.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, you're thinking about a ton of stuff. There's like 7 radios next to you. And he's like, okay, this is the best decision I can make. And then he does it, and something happens that you didn't calculate for.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's intense. Is it weird, though, that like when just the idea of being able to fly around and rain death down, I'm like, man, that sounds awesome. I don't know why. I've always like been very, I should have always think about, I made a mistake not joining. I should have, but I do definitely have a minor problem with authority, but dude, it seems like such a freaking cool life, unless you get stationed in Alabama, and then it's not as chill as you'd think.
Which is weird because a lot of the guys outside of flight school want to be stationed in Alabama.
Really? Why?
So in the military, we have stuff called TRADOC, which is training, like what I was just in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have ForceCom, which ForceCom is like all the units that go forward, they deploy, do stuff like that. A lot of field exercises, whatnot. And up until recently, when we pulled out of Afghanistan, aviation, because of how far behind we are as far as like manning, it would be you would do a rotation to like Europe, let's say. And you would come back for, 9 months after a 9-month rotation. But that rotation was to get you ready to go to Afghanistan or Iraq. So in a 3-year stint, you were gone for anywhere between 18 and 22, 24 months.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get stuck in TRADOC, you don't deploy.
Oh.
Yeah. So as far as like getting to see your kids grow up or actually spending time with your significant other, it can be very beneficial.
Yeah. I never. These are things I have no idea. I didn't know anything about this life, dude. I have known nothing about it. Did you enjoy your time in Alabama?
I mean, I will say, I don't know if I was in the wrong area of the South, but the food is not what I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be better. So that was unfortunate. But the Florida coast, like the Gulf Coast of Florida, absolutely incredible. Probably the best beach I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that.
You would say that. You might not have been in the right area because, like, Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee, North Carolina, absolutely fantastic food. Texas is not really the South; it's the Southwest, but fantastic food. Louisiana, what'd you think of that? You went to Louisiana. You snap me all the time.
Well, yeah, actually, me and Becca on our way to Texas, we went down. We went to the Everglades National Park in Florida. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Got to see some manatees floating around, whatnot. Went on an airboat ride with some crocodiles. Went to Orlando.
Alligators.
Yeah, saw Miami. Miami Beach. That was great. Then we stopped in New Orleans, of course, which is not quite back to what it was before COVID, but it's still great.
Mm-hmm.
And then just headed over to Austin and then right over to El Paso, which, by the way, threw me off a little bit because the email you sent me, I read the first time, which was Central Standard Time, but totally forgetting that El Paso is in Mountain Time.
Oh, it is, dude.
Yeah,
I fucked that up too. Well, it's on the west side of the state.
I was just lucky because I looked down and I saw that it said 1730 Pacific time, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Damn.
But the loop back, I never answered your original question on if I wanted to be a helicopter pilot originally. No, I didn't at all. I wanted to be a pilot. My grandpa served in World War II. And my family told me that he was in the Air Force. So I wanted to be a pilot ever since I was young. Turned out, once I joined the military, I found out that he did not serve in the Air Force because the Air Force did not exist during World War II.
It did not. And that was an invention after World War II.
Yeah, it was like 1951 or 1952. I'm not 100% sure. You could fact check me on that.
Debargo. It was the Navy pilots and Army pilots are what we had. Yes.
It was called the Army Air Corps, and that was what my grandfather was a part of. So I thought he was in the Air Force, wanted to be a pilot. And then I joined, obviously enlisted. I joined in public health because I thought, if I hate this, my contract is only 4 years long.
John?
Oh, sorry. I did find the Air Force was founded. Where did the date go? On September 18th, 1947.
1947. Okay. Still post World War II.
After World War II. You're
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Appreciate it, John. Yeah, I was like, I know that it wasn't exactly. I was like, I know they weren't a part of World War II. It was after that. That's why I'm not in the Air Force, because I don't know any of their history. But no, joined public health because my theory was, and you've probably experienced this, and everyone in our generation, you leave college with a degree, but then they want 4 or 5 years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, how do I get 5 years of experience, but no one will hire me? So I joined the military in public health. And I was like, if I like it, I'll stay. And if I don't like it, I have 5 years of experience.
Yeah, there you go.
I can now leave and go get a job. And luckily enough, I actually met a guy during basic training who told me that he was an 09 whiskey, which is a warrant officer candidate, but he had to go through basic training. And I was like, what is a warrant officer candidate? And he was like, I'm here to be a helicopter pilot. And I said, no way. The Army has pilots, which shows you how much I knew about the company that I just joined. But ever since that moment in basic training, I set out to be a helicopter pilot, and it took a long time. But
yes,
but it happened.
You're here now, man. You're here now, and I'm proud of you, dude. You should be proud of yourself. You've been busting your ass off, and I'm glad that we've continued to talk throughout the years. And you've clued me in. You've changed. I think the thing that I love the most about you is you've just changed so much as a human being since you joined the service. You picked up so many new skills. You play guitar now. And I think we've spoke a few times when you were in Iraq, and I was like, "Hey, man, how is it going? You seen any action?" She's like, "I'm bored as fuck. I've learned to play guitar. My roommates learned another language," and I was like, "Wait, what?" So, I mean, I had just the amount of disconnect that I have between what actually happens, what goes on when you're deployed. It's like it's completely, it's all wrong, right? And
in some ways, but in some ways not.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not ideal, but it's cool though. Like you've gotten to see the world and travel and meet so many interesting human beings. Like that's the part that fascinates. From all walks of life, you have people that are from Harvard, people that are poor, people that were gangbangers and found a new a different life. Like the military is just this weird amalgamation of human beings. That it's a really unique brotherhood. It's something I'm envious of that you're a part of, man. I'm too old now. Can't do it.
That's not true. But you could do it. But
shut up.
Yeah, you could do it all the way up until you're hitting the cusp.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, I'm pretty sure you can't commission, and you can fact check me on this. You have to you can commission, but after the age of, if you turn 33 before the date of commissioning, you have to get a waiver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Which, depending on the time of service, can be very easy or very hard. Like if you were to join in 2005, you would have been ushered right in. But
why 2005?
Height of the surge into Iraq, Afghanistan, post 9/11. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
That's
like
true.
You'll meet guys who came in originally like.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, hey, I found the your age limit. You have to be between 19 and 32 to be a commissioned officer.
Yep.
Oh shit.
And that's what I was saying. If you hit 33 before you commission, you have to get a waiver. And
okay,
it's not that hard, but no, like back when the original push happened, you'll see like NCOs, like senior NCOs. They might have like a neck tattoo or like a commissioned officer who has a felony, something like that. Where if they would have joined in 2016, let's say, when we were drawing down, that would have been a no-go. But they joined in 2005. If you need people.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, as far as you know, what's the scuttlebutt? Are we drawn up right now? What's happening? There's a lot going on in the world.
So I can't speak to if we're drawing up or not. The biggest concern I have is like not if we're drawing up, it's if we even could. And
Why do you say that?
so at least for me, like being in the military, and this is all like just personal opinion of mine. So since I've been in the service, when I was an NCO, the most impressive soldiers I met were between like the ages of like 24 and 30, which you would suspect because that's the prime of your life as a man. But what was more daunting was how not ready for physical tests that anyone between the ages of like 18 and 21 was. And I'm talking like I've never had a soldier in their mid 20s or even early 30s fail a run. I've had a ton of soldiers in their teens fail runs.
What?
And like you've probably heard this on other podcasts, like it's harder to get in the military than it is to get into college. And I'm not talking about university like us going to Oregon State or anything like that or Yale. But you could go to DeVry. Like just about anyone.
Yeah, exactly. You can go to New Hampshire University online, baby.
Yeah, and I'm like right now at 30, because like you've lived with me before. I've weighed about 220 pounds for the last decade.
Yep,
relatively the same weight. The amount of friends I have right now in our age group at 30 that if they went to MEPS and could actually serve, I could probably count on one hand.
Shit.
They wouldn't make height and weight. They've had physical ailments. And that's like another thing that comes back to like just being like piloting. One of the things that people don't take into account is, yes, it takes a certain amount of intelligence, all that kind of stuff to do anything in the military. Like we have line scores, ASVAB, all that kind of stuff. But like for stuff like pilot, SF, ranger, all that kind of stuff, the reason why most of them are getting kicked out isn't because they're not smart enough. It's the physical. They physically are not in good enough shape to make it through.
You're freaking me out right now.
What?
You're freaking me out right now.
And that's just one of those things that's like terrifying, like moving forward is, like I said, like just seeing that kind of thing. The military has done some good stuff. I'm happy that they've moved from their original APFT, which is our Army physical fitness test. It used to be 2 minutes of sit-ups, 2 minutes of push-ups, and a 2-mile run. Now we do hand release push-ups, which I'm still not a huge fan of, but at least it's progress. We do a ball toss with a medicine ball. You're literally throwing a medicine ball behind your head. Deadlift, in order to max it 100%, would be 340 for 3 reps on a hex bar. Yeah.
So what, dude? I could do that with my eyes closed.
Yeah. Nothing too bad. We do a sprint drag carry, which is you're pulling a 90-pound sled down and back. You run down and back, do some shuffles, carry some kettlebells down and back, and then you sprint again. Not too bad. And then at the very end of it, you do this thing called the leg tuck, which I mean, without like getting up and showing you what it is, it's basically like kind of like hanging leg races. Similarly, like just kind of an abdominal workout. There's also other workouts you can do, and then you do a 2-mile run at the end.
What do I get? What do I got to run 2 miles in?
It depends. Do you want to max or do you want to pass?
I want to pass.
21 minutes.
Oh, bro. Okay, I'm golden.
Yeah.
I can do all this.
To max, and they keep changing these standards because it hasn't actually been implemented yet. Like no one's taken one for record. And I don't think that's going to happen until next fiscal year. I could be fact checked on that. It could be this fiscal year. I don't really know. I don't really care because it's not that hard of a test. But to max it, I think you have to get 1330 or 1315, which still isn't that bad.
No, it's not terrible. That's not terrible. I mean, I'm pretty sure even I don't run that much. I think I could bust that out in 15. I would hurt. I'd
But
be
you
hurting.
run more than most
lie.
people I know.
Yeah.
I've seen
I
you
do.
running hills. So
Yeah,
just the fact that
hill,
actually
baby,
made it on your Snapchat would let me know that you run more than the average American.
Yeah, man. Good times create soft men, and we've had nothing but good times since the 40s. And it's something I worry about, especially with our, and I'm just as guilty as the next person, right? Like, politically, I don't really pay attention to what's going on. I just don't care. I think a lot of it's pointless. But geopolitically, that's where my
Rick,
interests tend to be. Yeah, sorry about that. Oh, technical difficulties, folks. Where would you last hear me?
I didn't hear anything that you said. I heard good times create weak men.
Oh yeah,
that was the last thing I heard as well.
Good times create weak men, and we haven't had a lot of bad times since the 40s, and so I don't really pay attention to anything that's going on politically, right? You hear a little bit this and that, but really where my attention has always been drawn is geopolitics, and so far I've been very focused on the South China Sea and that shit show. And lately I've been, John kind of pointed this out to me. Eastern Europe is going crazy. And so I look at what's going on and the loss of manufacturing and everything that we've lost in America. And I'm very concerned, especially when we have a lot of enemies, right? Basically at the gate that we're beholden to, especially when it comes to the Chinese, right? And I get concerned. And when you tell me that we don't have that our teenagers are not physically fit and that we're unable, they're not able to pass these physical tests, that's terrifying. And it's, if something were to pop off, right, I'm definitely going. I've effectively been completely brainwashed. I'm 100% love America, ready to roll. I have family members, grandparents, cousins. I've all served. I would answer the fucking call. I don't want to, and I'm anti-war, but I look at what's going on in the world, and I can't help but think, and based off the conversations I've had on this podcast, it's not looking good. And I don't know if there is a peaceful solution that can be had. And when I look at the strategy, and I keep hammering China, right? Like, it's not that they're trying to fight a potential war in the next year or two. It's like 20 years.
Well, yeah, it's like
they're long. So you're aware of the propaganda films that's been going on? I don't even have
social media, and I know semi what goes on.
Yeah, it's not good, and I'm wondering, and there's not a lot. I know there's some things you can't tell me and whatnot, but like, what are you hearing? Let us in. Like, what's going on? We're making a lot of moves silently. We just sold, and I'm going to get back to Russia. I'm doing it again. I'm myopically focused on the South China Sea, and I apologize, listeners. What are you hearing? Where are, what is the conversation like in our armed forces at this moment?
Well, so this is just by and large, like what everyone talks about. Like, it was what I talked about when I was medical. It was what I talked about as an Apache pilot. It doesn't matter. The thing is, since, what was it, 2003 when we did, I think Rick's frozen again.
Nope. I'm here.
No, you're not? Just your video? Okay.
Yeah, it's probably my video.
Yeah, since 2003, we've been fighting a coin war, which, do you know what coin is? Like, I'll explain it if not.
Please do. I don't know.
Okay, counterinsurgency. So a coin war is different than like near peer conflict. And a coin war is like what we've been in Afghanistan and Iraq, where, somebody comes out of like their house, they shoot at you. It's more like getting to know the locals, trying to figure out where the person is, stuff like that. Yep. Whereas near peer is more like, and, I'm not going to give you like a specific, but like to put into it, you have like air defense units that can shoot a rocket with precision and shoot down a aircraft from 100 kilometers away.
Yeah.
Whereas, so that's one of the struggles that we've been talking about, like, especially as an Apache community with our IPs, because they've had a very different experience than us. In their experience, they went to Afghanistan, Iraq, stuff like that. Yeah, RPGs were very much a thing. But if they go up to 3,000 feet and just circle around, no one can touch them. But then they're trying to teach young pilots how to pilot in the future against near peer, where we could get shot down as soon as we lift off the ground. So how do you do that? Like, and how do you do it when you've never experienced it? And that's like, they've even said that, like, they're like, how can I train somebody in a scenario that I haven't done?
Yeah. That's really, we have a lot of combat experience within our armed forces community, but it's been against people that aren't on the same level that we are technologically. These future conflicts, God forbid, that we're talking about, are not the case. They would be the first. These are powers, and when powers feud, the loss of life it's astronomical. It's terrible. And I'm watching right now a lot of these war correspondents for different new independent news sources. I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but they're embedded with Ukrainian forces, and the Russians are sending they can't film these. They have to pull back from the line at night, because if they film an infrared, they can detect where the Ukrainians are, and they will send either a drone strike against them, or they'll have those little like miniature drones, right? And they can drop missiles and whatnot, or like there's all sorts of stuff technologically that I know we've done to the Iraqis, like Afghanis and whatnot. But like, this is like, these are two, I don't know if you could call Ukrainian a power. Technically, I think they have the third largest military in Europe, but Google that, John, I could be wrong there. But that's what's going on right now. And I understand that if we were to engage with another power, that the losses and the learning curve of our generals as well, they would have to learn. And when they're learning, they're spending lives. And that's if you read history, that's what's going on. Go ahead, John.
So confirmed, they are the third largest military in Europe, confirmed at 255,000 personnel, though it's reported that it has grown to 280,000 in response to Russia's troop movements.
Fair enough.
100%. 100%. Yeah, thank you so much. So that is, so these are the things. So you guys are, it sounds like, and I'm going to read in between the lines here, it sounds like that's kind of the general consensus right now, is we fought wars one way for the past 20 years, and we're sort of gearing up to fight something different in the future.
Well, man, that's not classified knowledge. That's anybody that reads the news knows that. So, and it's kind of the same thing as when we originally pushed into Afghanistan and Iraq. Was all of our previous doctrine was all off of near-peer conflict. Mm-hmm. And that's why things did not go exactly as planned the first couple of years. and then change, because military doctrine, I know this sounds shocking because it's government and you would figure it works really quickly, but it doesn't. It takes quite a few years to change anything. And so that's kind of what's going on now. I mean, at least from what we've seen, like, it's not that they don't want to change something. I don't know if I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of a general or a high up leader that's trying to figure out the doctrine that's needed to do near peer conflict.
Yeah.
Because he's never seen it.
No. And if you look at, and I'll go back to history, if you look at World War I, this is the best example of this. It's completely different, but let's just say, we're going to use that. You had all these generals. Yeah, you've had all these generals that fought, in the 1800s. And then we have all these modern weapons, and they're fighting an 1800s war with, 19th century technology, and it's costing a lot of lives. Whereas, and the same parallels, if God forbid, I'm going to keep saying that, this pops off, right? It's a completely different, we will have the same mindset. We will be fighting against powers that can do the exact same things we can, and they're going to have things that are better that we don't know about, and vice versa. But we'll be using the doctrines of the past almost 80 years, right? All the combined knowledge we have, tanks, but now we're going to have a different element. We're going to have computers. We're going to have heat-seeking technology. The list can go on and on and on, right? We're going to use all these things that people haven't planned for or thought of, and it's going to cost lives. And that's why we shouldn't do it. War's stupid. Let's not. I mean, I know you're in the business of war, sir, but let's not do it. Let's be peaceful. Let's be better. And then, I mean, the big elephant in the room is, like, everyone that we're taught, these powers that we're talking about, they also have nuclear tech capabilities as well. Very capable. So it's and I don't want to be too doomsday-ish, right? I don't think that something like this is gonna pop off. I mean that's actually not entirely true. I definitely think that something like this could pop off, which is why I think about it. But I really hope that it doesn't, just for the reasons that we had spoke about. But it's really, I don't know, man. I really don't know. And at
the end of the day, it's going to change, like, a lot of stuff. Like, the fact of the matter is, with how sophisticated technology is now, you can't have a cell phone in your camp, because if you do,
Nope.
It'll be found. So it will go back to sending letters.
Dude, that's the funny thing, because in Ukraine, on the front lines, they can't use any of the standard communications, radios. They're using it's not Morse. I think it's a landline. They're using landline communication to move orders, because if they use anything else, a heat-seeking missile will hit them, or an artillery shell. So, like, I've been studying. It's been fascinating to me, because I'm seeing two power, definitely one power of Russia, the aggressor state. And to be fair, I'm not 100% sure. I'm just going to call it the aggressor state, right? But I don't have my facts straight sure on that,
Fair enough.
I don't have my facts straight on that. Okay, I don't. So I'm not trying to spread propaganda or anything. But so we've got them using landlines, but it's interesting to watch how this is playing out, because there's the, like, it's like a combination between a 21st war and then World War I, because they're all tunneled in, and the Ukrainians can see these Russians. They shoot at each other every day. It's been, I mean, this little conflict, this little smoldering war has been going on for 7 years, and right now it's at the precipice. It's about to come to it. Well, I hope, God forbid, it might come to a head. Oh yeah. They're using, what is it? What do you mean DJI drones for surveillance, John?
DJI is a company that makes drones. It's a Chinese manufacturer. I had seen reports that the Ukrainian military is using, I forget the model, but it's one of the higher end ones that are normally used for cinema or for infrastructure stuff like inspecting towers and things that are high up, that you fly a drone that carries a pretty heavy camera or has like stronger motors on it. They're using those for surveillance, and then the Russians are using just cheap drones, anything they can find. They're suspending mortars shells from the bottom of them, fly over as low as they can without getting detected, and then drop it on positions.
Well, are you 100? Are you 100% sure of that? Because I thought
I've seen.
that was.
I'll find the news articles I've been reading about it.
Find the source for that, because I thought it was either an African country or some Middle Eastern, like I don't know.
Well, that's happening in Ethiopia with the civil war they're having.
Yeah,
they're doing that too. That's become kind of the cool new thing to do. Instead of having suicide bombers all the time, you have drones with mortars or with C4 strapped to the bottom of it, and they just fly it in and blow it up. So that's not exclusive to Russia and the Ukraine, but that's been something that's been happening in Ethiopia a lot too.
Check that, because that doesn't make sense. Russia is a very capable army. Again, I'm talking out of my ass. I'm going to assume they're a very capable army. And I think that they would be more strategic and have better stuff than that. So just make sure that that's accurate.
I'll look into
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I mean, they've got jets and tanks and also the same shit we do. They're nuclear power, bro. I can't imagine that's what they'd be using. I figure they'd use the same types of drones and shit. But
it'd be shocking if they did, though.
It would be shocking.
Who's looking for a civilian drone, though? Coming into their camp.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Hey, it's a TikToker. No.
I don't know. Like, there's everything in war is like the most likely course of action and then the most dangerous. So it's what you think the enemy is going to do versus what's the worst case scenario. So you have to exhaust all possibilities. Not saying that it's right, not saying that it's wrong, just a way to think about war.
Yeah. I mean, it is. And it makes sense. Maybe they're probing. It makes sense to a certain effect, but I just feel like there'd be more effective means, right? Like, I feel like that's a very low risk, I feel like low reward strategy. Whereas if I have a drone, an unmanned drone, I'm flying above and I've got, I don't know, not heat seeking. I guess heat seeking, right? But what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for heat signatures. Infrared. I'm looking for heat signatures. Oh my God, I see some Ukrainian rebels. Boom, strike. I feel like that's the more effective thing. Yeah, flare. Yeah. I just feel like that would be what they would do. I feel like it'd be the same strategies we've been employing for the past 20 years. But I don't know. I could be wrong. He's pulling it up. Yeah, but I mean, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on all of this? I mean, you tend to agree with me, which makes me feel like I'm not too crazy. But as far as like, do you see in our future, in your opinion, do you see a large conflict breaking out between the powers?
I mean, how long in human history has the world went without war? So,
I mean, there hasn't been a year, but it's been about 80 plus, 83, 84 years since there's been I just feel like we're smarter than that, man. I feel like we've learned our lesson, hopefully. Okay, John, what's up?
What's up, John?
So what I found was going back to Atlas News on Instagram. They had several reports of the Ukrainian military using DJI Matrice 300 RTK drones that have they're rated for a higher payload. So then they put their military surveillance gear on that. They were doing test flights, and Ukraine friendly fire shot one down because they thought it was the Russians using drones.
Okay, so that makes sense. I just can't imagine Russia doing that. Okay, I'm glad we cleared that up. Very glad. Well, Darian, dude, I really appreciate you doing this, man. I mean, if you could give any advice to anyone that's thinking about enlisting in the armed forces, what would it be?
I mean, honestly, for me, if you have a goal in mind and if you can see it through, the Army can help you get there, or any armed forces for that matter. And if not, do one contract and get out, because all the benefits that you get besides a pension happen in that first 3 to 4 years. Yeah.
yeah, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show, share your story, and let me freak out a little bit about what's going on in the world. And God forbid any of that stuff happens, because I know that you would be gone, and that would suck. But dude, I'm super excited to and proud of what you're doing, and keep it up, my brother.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. It's been a wonderful time on your podcast. If you ever want me again, I'll come back.
Dude, you're 100% going to come back, bro. This is great. We'll talk about other shit next time you're on. Oh, yeah. And listen, folks, didn't mean to get all doom and gloom there, but pay attention. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now. But at the end of the day, it's all about what you control. And as I've stated a billion times, you control your attitude, your effort, and your diet. So just manage to control those things and keep getting better. It's all we can ask for. I love you guys. Thanks for listening. We're on YouTube now, so please hit that subscribe button. That helps a lot. Leave us a review on iTunes as well, or anywhere you get podcasts. That helps as well. We're growing this show, and it's all because of you guys. We appreciate the support. And smash the fucking like button if you feel so inclined, ladies and gentlemen. Brooks out. Finally did it.